Hello, and thank you for joining us for our second ever episode of Getting Carried Away. This is our YouTube program where Emma and I interview writers about the books, films, and TV programs that mean the most to them.
Hello.
Hi.
We are delighted to welcome to our little studio Jenni Spangler, who is a children's author extraordinaire and illustrator, and she is the author of 2 books here.
Ooh.
We have The Incredible Talking Machine and The Vanishing Trick, beautifully illustrated by
They
Chris
are
Mould.
beautiful.
Yeah, they're gorgeous, aren't they? And I've known Jenni for a few years now, and looking forward to asking Jenni all about her choices. So welcome, Jenni.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I liked your little leave the cool at the door. That won't be a problem for me because I didn't have any to begin with. So
it's outside. All right, so let's dive straight in then, because you've given us 3 very interesting choices. I'm interested to hear what you say about them. And let's kick it off with your first, well, not your first choice, but what I would like to first talk about, because I'm interested in how you got into it and the effect it's had on you and what you think of all the various versions, which is the Addams Family. So and that's so like, if someone just looked at your book covers and then you said you love the Addams Family, that's like about as brand or on brand as you can possibly get.
Yeah, it's not intentional, just it is.
Okay, I mean, so tell us about the Addams Family. And are you talking about the original TV show?
So the version that I fell in love with was the like black and white version from the 60s or something, obviously before my time. But for some reason, we had a set of VHS tapes of them when I was a kid, so I watched them, which explains a lot, doesn't it? Now, you know what kind of person I am as an adult, with like the Grim Reaper on the wall behind me and whatnot. But here's my thesis. The Addams Family are the best family on television, and we should all aspire to be more like them.
Okay, I love that. So tell us why. And also, how old were you then when you were sort of watching it on VHS?
I'm not sure when it's maybe 5 or 6.
Okay.
And, continuously then until like VHS tapes went out.
Did it ever scare you? Did you find it scary, or was it always?
No, I mean, I don't. Other than like, they had a lion or something, didn't they? Which I guess would be scary in real life. But they were lovely people. So the whole thing about them is that they're supposedly monstrous and the neighbors are horrified and everyone's nervous whenever they go in the house. But they are a multi-generational family that all get on really well with each other. There's no like in-law tensions there. They all love each other. Patricia and Gomez have this incredibly romantic, passionate relationship. In a time when sitcoms were all like the nagging wife and the oafish husband and stuff like that. They loved each other. Yeah. And they were really hands-on parents with the kids.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm liking where this is going.
Even when the kids had interests that they couldn't understand, like I think at one point Pudsey joins the Boy Scouts and they are horrified, but they support him.
Oh.
See, how many parents can really say that they support their kids going off in a completely different direction? So they are the best family on TV ever. Just because the neighbors don't understand them. And they're even nice to the neighbors. Not necessarily the kind of nice that the neighbors want. They mean well. They're trying to be generous with them.
So was it if you were that old, then were you identifying with Wednesday or were you identifying with Morticia? Because she's quite a role. I guess they both are amazing role models, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it must have been Wednesday at that age, but Morticia's obviously someone to aspire to, isn't she?
She's amazing, isn't she?
Well.
Very glamorous. Yeah, I thought she was really. I remember seeing the black and white, the original show a few times. I don't remember like watching it regularly, but she was gorgeous. Like she was really sexy.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So, and what about the film? What about the Christina Ricci?
I just kicked the power cord out of my laptop. So
this is genuinely getting carried away about the Addams Family. I am trashing the room.
Yeah, so the films, the live action films, I was just kind of the right age for them, I think, when they came out. Then I was definitely identifying with Wednesday in a big way. I think I probably had my first crush maybe for Christina Ricci, though I don't think I would have put it in those terms back then. I'm not sure I would have had the words for that, but I was obsessed. She sleeps in the movie like this, I think.
Yeah.
I definitely tried to do that as a kid.
Is that comfortable?
No. I don't know, as soon as you fall asleep, but obviously I was committed to the role, so I gave it my best effort.
So what did you like about her the most? Like, if you were watching her and really and you liked, because her performance is great actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like
definitely.
as a child actress, it's really good.
Yeah, and as a kid I wanted to be an actress as well. So it was very much kind of, imagining myself not necessarily as the character, but as the actress playing that character. So but I don't know, it's that kind of permission to do the really dark, sinister jokes that you can't do any other way. The tipping tar on the carol singers and playing a game that involves digging up the dead relatives. It's wonderful, isn't it? What else do we get an excuse to laugh at that kind of thing?
It is brilliant. It is brilliant. That scene where, oh my God, like they do the school play or something.
Yeah, there's just blood everywhere. Yeah.
Her parents just get up. They're like, "Well done, darling," and it's like,
again, amazing parents, right?
Yeah.
It's scene, and they made it happen, and they cheered for him. It's wonderful.
It is that. It's really nice, though, isn't it? It's like when they look. It's just like they see their kids. Do you know what I mean? They see them for who they are, and everyone else around them that's like giving them weird looks or whatever. That is when it's like out in society. Yeah, they are just like ultimately supportive, which is quite a big deal when you're a teenager and a kid.
Absolutely.
Do you think that it's the Addams Family's inspired you in your books and your writing? Because you write for children, but you do bring in some quite kind of dark themes, don't you, into your books? Do you think that might have been an inspiration for that?
I mean, I don't watch anything as often as I watch that and not have it sink in. You're lucky that I didn't pick the Sooty Show, because that's the only other thing that I watch. Repetition, so it could have been a very different conversation. But yeah, I think it must do. And I think, if anything, you were always writing for sort of the 10-year-old that you were. So
that's interesting.
I want to do all the dark stuff because I know that I would have absolutely poured through that kind of thing. So it's got to be part of it. I mean, it was a huge success, so clearly I'm not the only one who was desperate for a bit of darkness.
Yeah.
But I reckon that kind of darkness, or those sort of more, not difficult, but kind of, taboo topics, I guess, for children, definitely informs another of your choices, I think, as well. So I'm kind of interested in what attracted you to that side of stuff at all in the first place. Like, was it just seeing the Addams Family, or was it a way of kind of, understanding, death and ghosts and supernatural stuff, or where did that interest come from?
It's hard to say, isn't it, when you're that little, what attracts you to something? But I think a lot of girls go through a witchy phase.
Okay.
Maybe like a little bit older, maybe like 12 to 14-ish. It's super common for like that goth phase and to start experimenting with. And I obviously did, all in with that one. I think part of it as well is it's quite a powerful narrative for a young girl. You're coming to an age where you're starting to be judged on your looks, and you're starting to be expected to be quite adult in some ways and still be treated as a child in other ways. And then you've got this idea that, witchcraft or whatever, you might have this magic inside you and be powerful in your own right, regardless of everything else. There's something very attractive about that narrative, I think. So I think that's got to be at least part of it.
Yeah.
And not that the Addams Family ever say that they're witches or anything like that, but it's all sort of implied, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's that sort of kind of taking and owning your own your own weirdness, the bits that are unacceptable or that you know, in other societies or might be judged or hidden away. Even if it's played for laughs with the Addams Family, it's still that balance of the normal with the abnormal, or what's considered acceptable. Do you know what I mean?
And they're never made to feel bad for it, are they? I mean, even though the neighbours are judging, they are happy and comfortable in who they are.
They never question it, do they? They never think, oh, actually, should we kind of be a bit, you know, they just, not in any of the versions I've ever seen. They never question it.
Doesn't even seem to occur to them, especially in the old black and white one. They're surprised when the neighbours act strangely, and they just think, "Oh, he's a bit weird."
Aren't they strange?
Which is amazing. That's you know.
I wonder, do you know anything about it? Like, only just because you're mentioning it, it sounds. Do you know anything about it culturally? Like, do you think? Doesn't matter if no one knows, but do you know what I mean? Like, do you think that would have been a big thing? When was it out? In the 60s? And it
started as a cartoon, didn't it? Like the first ever version of the Addams Family was a cartoon is it in the New Yorker? So it's those real sort of visual like motifs that they kind of carry through in all of the different versions. But yeah, I don't know kind of how it was received, and did people think it was, you know, too weird for their kids? I don't know.
I would actually be really interested to find that out.
Yeah. It's quite, but because the Munsters came after, the Addams Family was first. That's about all I know, and I don't know how long it was around for. But you know, I just wonder, you know, because the kind of progression of TV, and as you said, Jenny, those sorts of sitcoms were very much like, oh, my nagging wife. Do you know what I mean? And to have that flipped so clearly,
especially to see like almost like sexual tension between them, like in that era, it wasn't done, was it? It was, if they were in the bedrooms, you saw separate beds, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then their relationship is real, like relationship goals, isn't it? Like, and then
because in the Christina Ricci version, they're all over each other, aren't they?
Really,
like it's really, you know, it's way obvious. Yeah, it's really passionate. They can't keep their hands off each other. It's lovely because they've obviously been together for time, and it's like you really don't often get to see that on screen. Like,
one thing that did, so I watched the 1991 film again, and I just thought, well, I'll just see how it stands up. And I do really love all the stuff around like celebrating being weird, and I totally get the whole, you know, as a young person, it gives you permission to be weird. But one thing that I think I'd forgotten is how wealthy they are. And it kind of, that I was a bit like, okay, so they're just really, really, really minted, basically. And the whole of that film is about like that gets taken away from them, and they do kind of lose their identity a bit. And I was like, so is it a bit like it's great to be weird as long as you've got loads and loads of money? Is there something I don't know, or is that just me like in my 40s now reading way too much into it?
Isn't it? If you're rich, you get away with things that people
exactly.
Well, if you're rich, if you're rich, I think there is that thing. Okay, so first of all, my little brain is spinning wheels because of another of your choices, which also is about you're absolutely loaded, and then your entire identity gets changed.
Oh my god, of course!
My god! When
I didn't even do that on purpose this time.
Oh, good day. Wrong meeting. But so that's, hang on, to tie into that. But no, I've totally forgotten what I was going to say. I've forgotten what I was going to say. No. But that whole thing of that ties into Schitt's Creek, which is your second choice, and the other point I was going to make might come back. I've got it. Sorry, anyone who's maybe watching. That whole thing about being weird. When you're rich, you're not weird, are you? You're eccentric, which is like the acceptable version of being weird, because you can be a genius and, you know, walk around in funny clothes, but you're not the crazy homeless person who might actually have some mental difficulty. Do you know what I mean? Or whatever. Yeah. So that's a kind of like, you can be weird if you're rich, because you're not called weird. You're called, you know, eccentric and genius and, you know, slightly crazy in a good way, which is quite...
I feel like your point isn't quite as cozy as my point was, but sure.
No, but you know what I mean.
Though, like it's very dark. Social commentary there. Very dark. But I can't argue with you.
Okay. All right. So we can carry that on, because let's talk about your second choice of Schitt's Creek. Well, let's talk about that, because it's fascinating how it's a similar theme, which is you know, being defined by your wealth and being allowed to be a certain way, and then who are you when all of that goes, really? So yeah, talk to us about Schitt's Creek. How did you discover it? What do you think about it? Who's your favorite character, etc.?
I was late to the party because I'm always late to the party, so I didn't even start watching it until people were tweeting like, "Oh my god, the finale was amazing!" And then I eventually broke down and watched it, mostly because I'd watched everything else on Netflix, I'm sure. And if you watch one crime documentary on Netflix, you get like murders for months, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I'm going to give it a go.
Did you watch it? Did you watch it recently?
Fairly recently, yeah.
Okay.
Like,
yeah, no, I watched it in lockdown. Well, one of the lockdowns.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it took me a while to get into it because they're not sympathetic at all, are they, to begin with? But it could be like a case study in like character development.
Oh.
Teach a class on it. You could absolutely teach a class on how they develop those characters. It's amazing. Go on, Hugh.
Yeah. No,
how do you think? Because again, this is a bit like Breaking Bad last week. So in preparation for this, I watched the first couple of episodes. So I'm definitely at the point where I'm thinking, oh my god, they're all horrible. This is just a program about people who are horrible.
They're so horrible.
And I guess it's a bit like Breaking Bad as well, though, because I get it's an amazing like concept. It's an amazing, really sort of engaging premise for a program. Like it starts with this moment of huge disruption in their lives. So yeah, I'm really interested in, so from what I've seen, where it's just these utterly spoiled people, like where does it take them? How does it develop the characters?
It's definitely a redemption story, I would say. I mean, it takes them a while to get there, but they definitely they all sort of come together and they learn. They don't really change their personalities. You know, it's because some shows that you change them so completely that you think it might not even have been the same characters. They keep the sort of things that make them, but they just kind of, mature. It's quite gentle, isn't it? The way isn't it? It's quite gentle the way it kind of moves them through from beginning to end. And it's just, I think I really just like stories about people being nice to each other.
Oh, yeah.
And it is basically them learning how to be nice to each other and then kind of unpacking maybe how they've not been nice to themselves because they've lived in this very artificial world and things like that. It's also really nice for people of the town because they move them from this like middle of nowhere small town, but the town is never the butt of the jokes. It's never like, oh, these rich people are great and, look at these yokels or whatever. They are all really nice, accepting people, very different than the kind that they used to, quirky, obviously, because it's a sitcom, but they're never made out to be like backwards or anything like that. Like one of the characters is bisexual and that's never an issue, ever. And that's just really nice and refreshing to have a story where that doesn't have to be a big traumatic, let's talk about homophobia kind of thing. They're just nice people. I think maybe over lockdown I really needed something.
Yeah. Although I did just see the scene where that sheriff guy eats the cheese fondue with his fingers. That was a bit upsetting.
He's kind of like, the minute he comes on screen, you start itching. Like, he makes me itch. Like, episode 1, I was like, oh, where's that itch shampoo? Like, oh.
What do you think of it, Emma? Do you love it?
Sorry,
say that again?
I was just going to say, what do you think of it, Emma?
Yeah, I really loved it. So I watched it during, first lockdown or second lockdown, whatever. But definitely all I could actually watch was kind of feel good stuff. So I went through a few things. Do you know what I mean? The Good Place, and Schitt's Creek was one of them. And I think we had to watch the first episode like twice, or we watched it once. Then I was like, oh my god, I hate all these people. They're horrible. and I don't mind watching stuff about horrible people. I love a dark psycho horrible, but they're not even interesting. So I think I then left it again and then came back to it and just love it. Like, just love it. It's so warm.
Okay.
It's so warm. It's so sincere. It's so full of just lovely feeling, and it's just really clever as well. It's really clever. It's really slick. It's like each episode is like 25 minutes and they pack so much in. All the characters are really memorable and have their own arc. As Jenny said, and you're kind of I love it when an ensemble show like that, when your favorites change. I don't know if you again, but like, and it's just, I mean, it's kind of one of those shows that you kind of, you know, there are endless kind of memes and people quoting it and stuff, but it is just really funny, but it's really warm. The first time David did his song thing, I just cried my eyes out like a baby, like when he covered whatever. And the bickering between Alexis and her brother is just ew, David. Like, oh my god, I love it. Yeah, it's really yeah, but it did take a while, and kind of like longer than I was willing to give it, but you know, it was lockdown, so I didn't have anywhere else to go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think it took me it must have taken me 5 episodes to give a monkeys, really.
Okay.
Probably the same.
Yeah.
Stick with it.
Okay. I do. It's what you were saying about like the memes and the gifs, because I mainly know it from the gifs. Like it's just like is it Catherine O'Hara, the who has made a career being a rubbish mom, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Basically, is she the woman from Home Alone, the mom in Home Alone? Yeah. It's like, oh god, is that? Oh yeah. But yeah, her in her amazing wardrobe, so like incredible clothes, just reacting to stuff. That was all I really knew about it before.
Her enunciation of stuff is just, oh my god, it takes a while. I think for a few episodes I was also a little bit like, sometimes I worry if this is an age thing, and I'm a bit like, can you just turn it up a bit? Like I can't hear it. She's got a very particular way of speaking, but oh my god, she's so funny.
She shouldn't work, should she, as a character, because she's so over the top, and yet
you go with it, don't you? Yeah. Who was your favorite, Jen, or kind of what moments kind of really stood out for you, do you think?
I think it might be like the end of series 2. There's a party that I think Mum and Dad have been out to a dinner that's ended up with like the mayor and his wife, and also a couple from their old life when they were super rich.
Yes.
And they have this kind of this moment of redemption where the dad stands up to the rich couple and says, you didn't care about us, you know, you're making fun of these people, but they are the nicest people. And it's like, oh, and then they go to this party and they dance with their grown-up children at this party.
Oh
yeah. Oh, it's the moment we needed. That was the moment where I was like, okay, I'm in it for whatever comes next.
Yeah, no, that is really lovely. I love Alexis's arc as well, because she's so spoiled, and her whole relationship with Ted and working at the vets and like, and it's this, and you know, David getting true love is just lovely, because
neither of them lose kind of what makes them weird, but at the same time, like they grow enough to make room for other people, I think.
Yeah, because they're massively flawed. You know, they're kind of apart. You take the money stuff away, but they have still got those flaws are very real. Like, you know, Moira's over the top with her enunciation and her wigs and stuff, and that's the comedy stuff. But at heart, she's just massively insecure and vain. And she was a very successful actress who's kind of been passed over, you know, in her sitcom, in her world and in her mind. So it's that whole thing of loss of power and loss of status is quite, it's really good. It's dealt with really well. I really enjoyed it. It really made, I really had a nice time watching it.
It sounds like it's the right program at the right time as well, which I think makes a big difference, doesn't it? I think it sounds like the kind of thing that I could happily watch now, and things that usually, because I really love, you know, dark, awful, horrible, you know, yes. But actually sometimes at the moment that just feels a bit much, and actually it sounds like it came along at the right time when a lot of people just needed something to make them feel kind of warm and happy.
It's like a cup of tea, I think.
Oh,
you know, sometimes you want like a glass of champagne or whatever. Sometimes you just want a nice cup of tea.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I think you put me around to that one.
It's a great way of describing it. That's a great way of describing it. Yeah, it is. I've got a whole thing in my head now going on of like TV shows as drinks. Like, what would be my Dr. Pepper? Like,
a year from now, you'll have a line of cocktails.
So shall we ask you about your third and final choice, which is again something I know. I feel like all these choices are making me seem like someone who just never watches any TV. I watch so much TV, but this is another one I haven't watched this either. So it's Good Omens.
Yeah. So I'm going to upset a lot of people.
Do it, be weird. Upset them all. Go on, yeah, go on, do it.
So Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, obviously, like massive legendary authors. I'm not actually that keen on either of them on their own.
I've not read either of them either, so I can join you in the upset and we can get pelted together.
I know that like people will be horrified by that. Like I find Neil Gaiman super clever, maybe a little bit pretentious for my taste, and kind of Terry Pratchett, if anything, the opposite, is maybe a little bit sillier than I would pick. But together, they just work. They just like bring out the best in each other. And I will admit that it's the TV show really more than the actual books, because they've also got like the magic of the characters.
Are the books them together as well? Like, did they co-write the book?
Yeah, well, they just did one. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. They wrote it together, and then of course Terry Pratchett died before they made the TV show, but I think Neil Gaiman was involved in it. But then you've got like the magic of the actors coming together as well, and just like sometimes like TV shows kind of ruin books because they miss the point of whatever it was that made people love it, but it feels like they kind of kept the spirit of it and they all brought their own energy to it. And it's another one of those things that just makes me feel like, okay, it's okay, everything's fine. I watched it way too many times over lockdown.
So is the concept that it's an angel and a demon and they kind of, they're friends and they join forces? Is that the...
Yeah. They were both assigned to like work on Earth, like back in the Garden of Eden days. And obviously they're supposed to be thwarting each other, but they've kind of come to develop this friendship because they're the only people who really know what it's like to be living on Earth but not be a human.
For eternity, yeah.
They start doing each other favors and covering each other's jobs and things like that. And then it gets to the point where the Antichrist is brought back to the Earth. So we're on a countdown now to the end of the world. And they don't want it to end because they're happy living on Earth and enjoying all that stuff. And they're not really that convinced in their jobs anymore. And then they mess up the delivery of the Antichrist. So he goes missing. And then it's all like everyone has to rush together to try and stop it. And it's just...
So it's some pretty dark stuff here, isn't it? But presumably dealt with in quite a light-hearted way.
Yeah, it's really whimsical. It's really kind of, it's got a kind of Monty Python energy, maybe. I'd say a bit like a kind of, it's quite madcap, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. And there's just, I really like stories where people being nice to each other and people are just trying. It's like, the world is obviously terrible. It's on fire. And it's really nice to have this story where people they're all just trying, they're all, one of them's a demon, one of them's an angel, and there's like a witch hunter and a part-time fraudulent psychic and things like that. And they all kind of are doing their own little bit in the best way they can. And they're all just trying. I think that's just really reassuring.
So how come the demon gets to be a good? How come the demon gets to be a good guy then? What's his deal?
I think it's just that they probably both started out really believing in their jobs, and then over time that they've seen that it's kind of not all that it's cracked up to be. They're more going through the motions and things like that. And I suppose he is redeemed at the end, really, and not properly a demon anymore. I'm not really sure, but. I don't know. He just is. He's lovely.
he's an amazing. I can't. But he's in Around the World in 80 Days at the moment, isn't he? Are either of you watching that?
No. What, David Tennant?
Yes, that's the chap.
That's the fella. No, I haven't seen Around the World in 80 Days yet. Is that a series or was it just a Christmas story?
Yeah. It's so far it's really good. It's and he's just a really charismatic actor, isn't he?
Oh my, yeah. You just his walk as Crowley, just his whole loosh, like oh my god, it's like mesmerizing. You're like it's like channeling Mick Jagger and I don't know who else is it channeling. It's like it's kind of I've not read it, and I've seen 3 episodes of this series. And I actually watched it. We watched the first episode about a week and a half ago, but I watched it with my children, and my daughter absolutely loved it. She thought it was hilarious. Like, so I think you've got to have quite a specific sense of humor, and she is quite weird. We love weird. We love weird. And she was properly like getting it and absolutely just, she was really, really loved it. And then that made me think, oh my God, I'm now going to watch it with her. Cause she was like, when can we watch it again? That was really funny.
Yeah, you got to.
Yeah. Like yeah. You know, Maisie, she loved it. It was great. Yeah, but the performances are brilliant. But it's quite. So have you read it, Jen? Did you read the book?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay.
I'd already seen the show, and honestly, I can't remember if I finished it. Is that an awful thing to say? You know, for a writer, I'm terrible at finishing books. But
I can just imagine, because the actors are so brilliant. It works so well visually. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like episode 2, when they rattle through how they met in episode 2, Anna, you know, it's kind of spoiler, but not really. They sort of the first whole half of the episode, or maybe it's episode 3, but they rattle through the, you know, the demon and angel's relationship from, you know, all through the ages kind of thing up to now. So you see them like, you know, David Tennant's hair is like a thing, and it's a character in its own right, like him and his red wigs. But yeah, it kind of rushes through. But it's done so brilliantly. And I actually, for me, that whole thing, Jen, about TV and, you know, book adaptations, that whole thing is something I'm really genuinely, passionately interested in, and love comparing stuff. Because also I don't think personally I necessarily have a very visual eye. So this works, Good Omens works so well visually, because it is, you know, angels, demons, and all those preconceived ideas about what we think things look like. It turns it on its head. Like the scene where the witch, when she, you know, when she's burnt episode 2 and then the thing happens, like, oh my God, it's just brilliant. Like I would really struggle like trying to visualize that in a book. So I wouldn't actually really want to read it in a book, although I'm sure, you know, fans of
show that you could be comic strip panels, couldn't they? You could see it as a graphic novel. Like,
is it not a graphic novel?
Probably. I don't know.
If
not, then, you know, I'm on it.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Do a kids version. Do a kids version. Anyone out there watching? Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
I know we're nearly out of time. I wanted to ask you one more question on Good Omens, if that's okay, because I was reading about it, and one thing I read said, okay, this is a real celebration of male platonic friendship, and that's one of the reasons why people love it. And then this other thing I read said, oh, they're clearly like deeply in love with each other. So I wondered, like, what are both of your views on that?
Those things aren't mutually exclusive.
Yeah. I think you could easily argue it both ways. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, they do have this incredible intimacy. They know each other really well. They're clearly very affectionate towards each other. There's no, I mean, maybe it's because they're angels. There's no suggestion that anything physical has ever gone on. I don't. Yeah. Can angels do that sort of thing? I don't know.
I didn't think they had genitals, do they? I'm like,
I
don't necessarily know if I need to be thinking about whether it's this time of night, like.
Well, whatever they are, they're clearly like soulmates in the sense that they are the only people that go together.
Yeah, it's like the odd couple, isn't it? In a you know, thingy universe.
Yeah.
They work really well together.
Yeah, maybe like you say, you don't have to kind of put it in a box. Maybe they can be both those things.
Yeah. I wouldn't be disappointed if they were a couple. But I do think you know, I think we do have a tendency to make any intimate friendship must be a romance. Intimate in any other sense, are we, as a culture? Yeah.
Because I love the idea of, you know, celebrating friendship. I think it's quite an underrated sort of relationship. And like you say, kind of sort of jumping to the conclusion that any two people that are incredibly close, there must be that element to it. But
oh my God, well, that's what ruined the X-Files. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just like don't even that. We'll have to leave that for another episode. I was going
to say we can't get on to ruin X-Files.
Like,
bring me back.
Don't even get me started. Like, sorry. Getting carried away.
You are. No. Oh, but no, we should try and wrap it up. We've said we'll try and keep these programs to half an hour, but those were 3 like really like choices I knew less about, but absolutely fascinating. That was really interesting to hear about.
Is there Jen? Yeah. So Jen, this is opportunity for you to tell us anything you might want to tell us about, your work, what's up and coming, what's next for you, or, maybe you mentioned of Magpie Shop or anything you fancy.
See, this is where my mind
people
goes.
can find you.
It's about me. It's about the Addams family for an hour, but yeah, I don't know. Come and find me on Twitter because that's the only place where I seem to make any sense nowadays. Yeah, the Magpie Shop probably won't be open for very long because we're almost out of stock. Otherwise, I would definitely be shouting about that because that's.
Have you got one of your notebooks nearby though?
Ta-da! Which way is the thing?
Yeah, so Jenny's been doing project with schools, as far as I understand it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jenny, but with schools as children's author, which is celebrating kind of year 6 and year 5 and 6 in kind of just being creative and not afraid to experiment. So really channeling, practicing what she preaches, like be weird, there are no mistakes, we're all beginners mind, and just have fun. And created a logo and a beautiful little pin badge, and has printed up some journals and sketchbooks, which from what I understand are like flying off like literal hotcakes from your Etsy shop.
I'm faster than I can really cope with them, to be honest. I'm not really made for shopkeeping. I'm not.
Oh, is that where the thank you for being weird with me comes from?
Yeah, sort of. I think just that's a theme that I come back to all the time. All my favorite people are weird. That's why the motto is work hard, be kind, stay weird, because those are the 3 things that I think all my creative friends have in common. They're all constantly working. I don't need to tell you guys that. So kind, looking out for each other. And they've all kept hold of what makes them weird. And that's why they're able to make these things that are so different from each other and so special. And so that's what I'm always going out and telling kids. Stay weird.
Yeah, and I think it's really nice for us as adults to be reminded as well that this is what this program's about, isn't it?
Yeah,
celebrating those things that we might be like, oh, people are gonna think that's weird, or I can't talk about that or whatever, and it's like, no, we can.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh no, that's brilliant. Emma and I were saying earlier we want to nick that as our strap line. Just check you haven't got any copyright on that, because we'll have it.
Spread the weird.
Oh, but yeah, thank you so much, Jenny. That's been absolutely brilliant, and it's been lovely to get to know you a little bit better. So shall I talk about next week?
Yeah, do it.
So please do join us same time next week, when we will be joined by the crime thriller author D.L. Marshall. So really looking forward to finding out what Danny's choices are and having a really good chat about those. So thank you so much, Jenny. It's been lovely to talk to you tonight. And yeah, hopefully see you next week.
See you next week.
Okay.
Love you.
Bye.